The insect is performing a grotesque experiment, putting bits of machinery into the child.
Imagine if you took Harvester, Phantasmagoria and Darkseid, mix them all together along with a sprinkling of the Twilight Zone. Well, the result would be Sanitarium, and if you've never heard of it before, then you're in for a real treat. Sanitarium is an isometric point-and-click adventure game by DreamForge Intertainment, released in 1998. You play as Max, an amnesiac who wakes up in a sanitarium and has to piece together his memories by navigating 4 strange and unique worlds. I'll say no more, it's best if you follow the story from the beginning, but I will say that if you're familiar at all with Harvester, one of the defining videos on my channel, then you're in for an equally bizarre and crazy ride. Let's begin. Wait, sorry. Yeah, this is how the original cutscenes looked. Low resolution, grainy, dark and hard to make out. There's no perfect solution to this from what I could find, but I'm going to try and edit them a bit to make them more visible. Right, back to the game.
Hon, you're not going to believe it. I found the answer. All those years, I should have seen it. There's more. I'll tell you when I get home. What the?
Move your asses, come on! That generator's got her. The fire's gonna spread.
Hey, what about this one?
Ah, leave him. That's a bastard who stole my car.
So we've woken up and our face is covered in bandages. There's an alarm going off because the generator has blown and caused a fire. Our immediate course of action is to get out as fast as possible, although the other inmates don't seem as concerned. One is dancing, another is slamming their head against the wall, and another is...
Watch the death-defying! Hey, who are you?
Oh my god, don't!
Well, we won't be talking to him. Let's shut the alarm off and see if anyone knows what's going on.
Finally, that thing was driving me crazy. Something here is familiar. I keep thinking I'll get it. Where are we?
This is the village.
What village? Doesn't this place have a real name?
Of course. It's the village. The best place for people like you and me. The doctor here has resource, Dr. Morgan. He says I'm lucky to be here, and so you must be lucky too.
This guy told us about a Dr. Morgan and a village of fallen warriors, while another guy thinks that insects are trying to destroy the world. We probably won't get much out of them, so we take a towel from a cell and use it to swing over to the control tower. Inside there's a VCR which gives us our first glimpse into our backstory.
Can you hear me? It's Dr. Morgan. Your delusions almost took the life from you this time.
My face, it's in bandages. Where am I? Who am I?
You must have thought you had somewhere important to go when you stole that car.
Oh, no.
You did a lot of damage to that face of yours in the crash.
I'm sorry. I can't believe.
No apologies. All we need is your best effort. We'll talk again soon.
We grab a key from a safe and apparently it dates back to the ancient Aztec Empire. But more importantly, this facility is still going to explode, and this key conveniently fits into the base of the angel statue at the top of the stairs.
Am I going mad?
Listen, hear the cries of the children. The innocent are dying, and you only think of yourself. Can you not see the light of heaven has dimmed?
What can I do?
Seek the truth.
The angel drops us off in a town populated solely by hideously deformed children.
Her hands and face are deformed. This girl has 2 wooden legs. His face looks like it's melting. Her legs are like tree roots. The boy's face is mottled and leafy. Kid's got an extra arm. I don't mean to be rude, but what happened to your face?
Huh? Oh, that. Mother did this. Aren't I pretty?
You one ugly motherfucker.
Fortunately, a memory of our childhood returns and we remember that our name is Max.
Who are you?
Megan Johns, but you can call me Pegleg. That's what all the kids call me.
That's mean. I would never call you that.
Thanks, mister. You're nice. What's your name?
My name is Max.
That's a nice name. Hey, now you aren't a stranger.
Each of the children refers to an ominous mother that watches over the town and keeps them in line on the threat of putting them in the pumpkin patch.
Where are your parents?
They're all in.
Jesse, shut up. He's a grown-up. You know Mother's rule.
What's Mother's rule?
We aren't supposed to talk about our folks. If we do, we'll be put in the patch.
Inside the church, we read about a comet that had fallen from the sky and plummeted to the town some days prior, as well as the death of Jedda's wife.
It says that Marilyn Driscoll was found in her bathtub, both wrists cut. The police questioned the husband Jeddah as a matter of standard procedure.
Inside an abandoned house with overgrown vines, we find the obituary for Marilyn Lee Driscoll, as well as the diary of a little girl.
It's an obituary. Marilyn Lee Driscoll, age 32, died Saturday. Husband Jeddah, daughter Carol, and son Lawrence. A diary. No name on it, but it looks like a little kid's writing. I wish Mommy wasn't so sad all the time. She cries a lot. She says that Daddy drinks too much. Daddy's been staying in the patch until dark. When Dad comes in, he yells at Mommy and they fight real bad. He yells a lot lately. Mommy's up in heaven now. Dad said she had an accident and God took her away. I miss her a lot. I wish she were here to stop Dad from drinking so much. Dad smells bad when he drinks that stuff. He gets real mad and he starts hitting me. Today was a bad day. A big rock fell out of the sky and hit our barn. Dad's real mad about that and all the vines that are growing out of it. Prayed to Mommy again today. I hope she heard me because I had to be real quiet so Dad wouldn't find me. He was hitting me again and it hurt a lot this time. I hid out by the rock in the barn. It's warm and makes me feel good. Sometimes I can even hear music coming out of it.
Inside the cemetery, we find the rest of the village children, along with a grave with a name ended in Driscoll. We speak to Dennis O'Toole, the leader of the kids, who looks and sounds a lot like Boris Johnson.
What's your name?
What's it to you, dumbass?
The last time I cooked was last night, and I made steak and oven chips, which were very good.
We get a hint as to what happened to all the adults. It seems Mother didn't like them.
I haven't seen any adults in this town. Where are your parents? Where are all of the adults?
Mother took care of them. In fact, I'd watch my step if I were you. After all, you're the only adult in town, and Mother don't like adults.
We grab a crowbar from one of the buildings and then go back to Dennis. He tells us that it will give us a key to the town store if we beat the kids in a game of hide and seek. One is hiding in a tree, another under the bed in the abandoned house, another in the church, and another in the elementary school which requires the crowbar to get inside. I think we discovered what happened to all the adults.
My God, so many corpses. It's horrible. There you are. My God, what kind of hiding place is this? Decayed bodies. Are these the parents? If I asked the kids directly, it might upset them.
This is one of the most shocking parts of the game. Until now, the player wasn't entirely certain just how dark this game was willing to go. The full implications of this will take a while to surface, but we find another kid in the barrel and then we go back to Dennis. He tells us that we haven't found everyone yet, despite these kids being the only ones that we've seen.
You big dolt! You forgot about our secret weapon! You didn't find Carol! She's our secret weapon. She's the best there is at this game. She's been hiding a long time.
A secret weapon? Some of you may already be thinking along the right lines, however this was truly a shock to me the first time I played. We take a shovel from Eileen, the girl with the tree roots for legs, and go to the cemetery. One of the gravestones reads C. Driscoll, as I mentioned earlier, and we know from the obituary that Marilyn Driscoll was the woman who commits suicide. Jeddah was the alcoholic, abusive father to the little girl who wrote the diary, and thus they were all Driscolls. We used the shovel to dig up the grave, and this is just horrible.
Oh my god. This decayed child must be Carol, Dennis's secret weapon.
We have a story of domestic and parental abuse that drove a mother to suicide and caused the death of a little girl. The Reverend of the town covered up for Jeddah, the father, and he escaped justice. We get the town store key from Dennis and discover the full truth of the incident.
Looks like a comet actually hit ground in this town, causing a landslide to block Route 30, falling bridges, power failures. The rest of the page is burnt away. The Reverend made it illegal to hamper the growth of the vines, saying that the people should accept punishment for their sins of pride and greed. There's something else here. Charges of child abuse filed against Jeddah Driscoll have been dropped.
We grab an empty gas cannon and ride the spring pig out front until it breaks. We use the spring pig on the broken bridge and hop across to the pumpkin patch, where we find Maria, the child in the village who has undergone the most drastic transformation.
This girl's eyes are missing. Was she in some sort of accident? May I ask your name?
My name is Maria. Maria Santiago.
I keep hearing about Mother, but it doesn't sound like she's anyone's real mother. Who is this person?
She's resting right now. Otherwise, I wouldn't speak to you. You're right, though. She isn't anyone's real mother. She's really...
What is it, Maria?
I think she's waking up. I can't talk anymore. Mother will hear me and get awful mad.
But... oh, damn it. But why? Why can't you talk about your parents?
Please don't be mad. I'd tell you if I could. It's just that, well, I'll be punished again if I do. The pumpkin patch. She'll have me put in the pumpkin patch again.
You've been in there before?
Yes. The others dragged me in there. They did as they were told. Mother wanted to teach me a lesson. Not to look for our parents. Mother said we should never, ever do that. But I was too curious. Mother saw me. She told the other kids that I was bad. Then she made them put me in the patch. I don't remember much, just those nasty birds, black wings. They pegged at my eyes. It hurt a lot. But when the birds were done, Mother took the pain away.
That's horrendous. How could she do such a thing to a child?
It's okay. It's not so bad now. I'm kind of used to it. Anyway, once Mother wakes up, everything will be better.
The full extent of this situation is horrible, and it's rare for video games to tackle such serious topics about children. Aside from what happened to Carol, Maria here has undergone a repeated torture in the pumpkin patch in addition to the manipulation, coercion and body horror inflicted by Mother. The voice acting in this game certainly isn't anything amazing, but you get a visceral feeling of cringe hearing Maria describe the pain start to well up. Yes, while Harvester had equally shocking content happen to children, it never really explored the ramifications of that or took it with any level of seriousness. It's time to confront whatever this mother is, but first we need to get through the lock on the gate. Let's just ignore the fact that any grown man could quite easily just hop over the fence. Well, we know what code to try first in any video game, 451. That's the number of the sermon outside the front of the church, but obviously it's a reference to the first code in the original System Shock. And let me just take a moment to clear something up. The code 451 in the original System Shock was not a reference to Fahrenheit 451. Now, I already said this, but it continues to be a prevailing misconception across the internet, so here's the creator of System Shock, Warren Spector, saying exactly where the code came from once and for all.
If you've been playing a lot of Looking Glass and Ion Storm games, you know that the code here is 0451, which was first used in System Shock. It showed up in Thief, it showed up in System Shock 2, it showed up in Bioshock, in Dishonored recently, and in both Deus Ex games. And a lot of people think it was a reference to Fahrenheit 451, the Ray Bradbury book, but it was actually just the key code to get into the offices at Looking Glass in Cambridge.
So if you see anyone else say it's a reference to Fahrenheit 451, just tell them they're incorrect. We unlock the gate and grab a scythe. Oh no, I really am getting Harvester flashbacks. We walk into the next room and... Why does every point and click insist on having combat segments? They never work. Well, truth be told, this isn't that bad. Nowhere near Harvester levels of bad. We make our way around the maze, killing the crows that attack us along the way, until we meet an animated scarecrow. If we die, you just respawn back at the beginning, which is pretty fair. We weaken the scarecrow by squashing the pumpkins and then we kill him. You can see that the comet crashed down next to the barn, still glowing an ominous green hue. We grab a jumper cable from inside the tractor. Let's open the barn and see just what we're dealing with.
Oh my god! What a huge, disgusting nightmare!
So you finally arrived. I suppose it was inevitable. Yet, I hoped that the pumpkin patch would deter your progress.
My god, what are you?
I am beyond your understanding, human. However, you may call me what the children do. Mother.
These aren't your seedlings, they're children. Flesh and blood, don't you see that?
I see, and it disgusts me. Animal sacks filled with loose cells. It's a wonder you don't burst. What an inferior vessel for the spirits of these children. Jeddah preyed upon his own child, making her suffer and die. The entire town turned a blind eye to Jeddah's crimes, and I watched. The people's vicious disregard for Carol's safety was no less a crime than her father's.
So you killed them?
Their own inner chaos would have destroyed them eventually.
Why were you so concerned about Carol?
She talked to me when no one would listen. I tried to communicate with them, but Carol's voice was like music to me. She was my favorite, and I failed her. After I complete their transformation, the children will be one with me forever. That is their salvation.
I think you're the one who overestimates yourself, you perverse, bloated egomaniac!
You impudent wretch!
I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but this certainly doesn't disappoint. So Mother is essentially an alien entity, a collection of cells akin to plant life, whose goal is to transform the town's children into her own image, hence all their gross mutations. You can't argue that the town's adults weren't morally bankrupt. However, despite claiming how much she cared for Carol, she still tortured and manipulated these children. In the end, the children of this town have been stuck in a cycle of abuse and neglect by their respective authority figures. It's a really tragic story. We take the wrench on the ground and talk to Maria.
It's too late, Max. She's strong again. As strong as before. When she took all the adults, I can't think straight.
Maria's safe now. They're all safe. Soon all the sickness will be gone, and my seedlings will be one with me, free to live and grow.
Mother's influence has grown stronger, so we don't have long. We use the wrench on the hose near the town hall. We then grab a stone and throw it at the church bell. All the children used to rush to the sermon upon hearing the bell, back before their parents died. On the beach there was a child fishing, but since he's ran to the church we can grab his fishing rod. We used the gas can and the hose on the car to fill it up with gasoline. We used the fishing rod on a metallic cross near the bridge and reel it back in, and then head back to Mother. We fill the power generator next to the barn with the gas from the car and then put the metallic cross on the Comet. I think you know where we're going with this. We connect the power generator to the metallic cross with the jumper cable and then hit the switch.
There! The children are free of you! Ugh. What a mess.
Ah, grotesque, but what amazing artwork for 1998. It's finally time to leave this town, and it's good to see Maria is safe.
Thank you for freeing us, Max. Now that Mother is destroyed, the children are slowly returning to normal. They've all gone through the tunnel to join the rest of the world. I waited for you.
Yes, but where are we going? The asylum?
So essentially the narrative structure for Sanitarium goes like this. Asylum segment, otherworldly location, repeat, with flashbacks of Max's life filling us in on his backstory. That's the thread that grounds us throughout the game, despite all the flashbacks and trying to discern what's real and what's a result of psychosis. Unfortunately, however, the asylum segments just aren't that interesting. There's the typical crazy guy who believes he's Elvis, an old guy in a tutu, a bald guy holding a fish, and a woman who ate her husband?
My name is Vera. I think it sounds nice. I ate my husband with carrots and rice.
What is interesting are the visuals. Take a close look and you'll see the gargoyles moving in the background. The stained glass windows have images of clowns, and this tree in the courtyard has a face. Remember that for later. So we talked to all the inmates as well as the guards, who are all rude and uncaring.
Taking that nurse's car for a joyride wasn't the brightest thing you've ever done. I mean, now your face is all messed up and you can't remember squat.
Talking to this robed woman triggers a flashback. Turns out that Max is a doctor. The robed woman wants us to cure her friends. We enter the church and a crazed preacher gives us a holy mission. We walk to the house on the right and find Dr. Morgan. He's somehow connected to all of this.
I wish I had some answers for you. Perhaps we can talk later, after my work here is done.
What fire? What happened?
The generator exploded. Too bad about all of those others up there in the tower. We could only save so many. Right now, we're trying to keep everyone calm and pleasant. Don't want them to dwell on disturbing things, do we? No, surely not.
We play a song on the record player which causes the old man to dance and drop the holy symbol that he stole. We return the holy symbol to the preacher and he gives us an old broom. We use the old broom to open a control box. There's a water pipe puzzle to solve, and I absolutely love these. They remind me of those free-to-play games on old 90s PCs. Fixing the pipe causes the water to return to the fountain. Turns out that the robed woman's friend is the reflection of the gargoyle.
My spirit has been so dry. I do not know you, sir, but I thank you. What is your greatest wish?
I wish that I could see my sister again.
Hey, Squirt, feeling any better? I don't think I can go to the circus this year. We'll go next year. Can you do me a favor, Max? Dolly, the one Dad won me the last year at the circus, Mr. Clown, could you get it for me in the toy box?
Oh yeah, sure. I can't find it. I can't find it.
What's happening to me?
The flashback to Max's childhood shows us that his sister died of an illness and he was unable to find her doll before she passed away. We're now playing as her on top of a floating island with a circus.
Well, bless my soul! How on earth did you get here, little girl?
I don't know, mister. All I remember is looking in the water and then this flash of light. The next thing I knew, I was here.
Using my world-renowned powers of deduction, I'd say that you were in a boat and fell overboard. The tide swept you up and plopped you down here, safe and sound. And now, if you'll excuse me, little lady, I have a circus to run. Hey, you maggots! We have a customer! The show must go on!
It's just getting darker and darker. Look at all the floating bodies in the water. But first things first, we have to play some circus games. Want to know how you can tell all of this isn't real? Because it's actually possible to win.
Whee!
We collect 10 tickets by playing all the games and then pick up a bowling pin that falls on the ground. We talk to another child on the island and find out that the strong man of the circus, Gino, is in love with the fire-breathing woman, Inferno.
He was writing some scrap of love poems or something. They were pretty bad. I remember one went like this. Oh, Inferno, you make my heart burn out.
We grab the oil can near the fire and talk to everyone to get an idea of what's going on. It seems that a squid escaped captivity and grew into a monster that's now slowly killing everybody on the island.
What happened to the town?
Flood. The old Prospect Dam just beyond Grandview Point finally burst after years of neglect.
How did that happen?
Sort of forgotten over the years. We knew that it needed repairs, but we took it for granted. Thought it would last one more year. Guess we were wrong.
What happened to the rest of the townfolk?
Most of them were killed in the flood. Few survivors, like me family, came up here to find shelter.
Where are they? I don't see anyone but your family.
We're all that remain. That squid thing has been picking us off one by one.
But how can it? We're high up from the water.
Since it's been in the open water, it's grown to almost triple its original size. At night, sometimes, I've seen its long tentacles probing the ground, searching for us.
Can't you do anything?
I am afraid not. We're all doomed.
This has absolutely nothing to do with the story, but I want to mention it anyway. This clown stands here near the stairs, walking back and forth, blocking the way to the circus tent. No matter how long you stand and wait, he never seems to move out of the way, until the moment you give up and say screw it, I'll just walk the long way. Then he starts moving. It drives me to the point of insanity every time. I know it's just a small thing, but when you're playing as Sarah, she just takes so long to walk around this map. Another flashback shows us that Inferno is actually Max's wife, and he's just internalised her image as this character in the circus. But if that's the case, then why, in our imagination, are we helping Gino, the strongman, get together with her? Who knows? Inferno tells us that she can teach us to breathe fire if we find some fuel.
You're just the sweetest little girl. You're like the daughter I always wanted.
Why don't you have one?
My husband and I never had the chance to start a family.
What happened?
He and the other performers were trying to reach the other island when they were attacked by that squid freak. I didn't go because I get seasick easily. He said he'd go check it out, and if it was safe, he'd come back for me. He never came back. But before we get started, you'll need some fuel. I'm running low on my own stuff.
We tell Gino that we know his secret, that he's been writing anonymous love letters to Inferno, so we suggest that he gets a tattoo of her name on his arm to prove his love. In the background there are two clown siblings, and the sister keeps bullying the brother by throwing pies at him. Not very nice at all. Lefty, the clown, because his right arm's been ripped off, get it? Wants a challenge, so we throw him the bowling pin and pick up the red ball he drops on the floor. We see Gino at the tattooist and steal a needle and bottle of rubbing alcohol when he's not looking. And voila! We go down to the beach and see the freak show. This is where the squid escaped captivity and grew into a monster in the open ocean. We use 5 circus tickets to enter and we meet the dog boy, Timber. He's half boy, half ravenous dog. He has an insatiable hunger for bones. It's pretty hilarious and he's actually kinda nice.
How could I trust you? You look like you'd eat the first thing you get your hands on.
Oh no, I'm not you. I smell bones. Sweet scent of marrow. Driving me mad. I'm starving. I want out. Will you lead me to the bones?
We open his cage with a stolen needle and he immediately runs off to dig up a pile of bones. We walk back to the beach and use the oil can on the rusted up lever of the merry-go-round. We ride it and pass over to the House of Horror. Unfortunately we're too small to enter, but once we return Spanky the Clown's nose by giving him the juggling ball, he's nice enough to let us in. A cutscene plays and afterwards we find a piece of a broken mirror. A fortune teller at the top of the stairs reads our fortune and tells us that outside forces are conspiring against us, as well as to beware the pit of darkness. I have a feeling that I know just where that pit of darkness is, as well as where Timber dug up those bones. We jump into the pit and use the broken mirror to light a campfire. We light the stick on the fire and walk into the water with our fuel ready. It's another combat segment. We burn each of the tentacles, making our way to the end, where we find the squid. It has a human torso stuck to the top of its head. We blow fire into its eye to destroy it, and then we pass through the cave to the inside of a mansion.
Max, come upstairs. There's nothing you could do, son. It's not your fault that you couldn't find it. Come on. Your mother wants you to help her in the kitchen.
Okay, Dad. I'm coming.
The mansion represents the house that Max grew up in with his parents and sister. It's short, but it's probably one of my favourite segments in the entire game. The Twilight Zone inspiration really shines heavily here. It's very reminiscent of its otherworldly black and white episodes. It's slow paced, and the ghostly apparitions show the fallout of Max's pain after his sister's death. It has a solemn and wistful feeling with the moving walls and twisting rooms, like an old memory that's half forgotten. The music fits the mood perfectly. We grab a brass key from the bedroom and use it to set the time on the grandfather clock to 6 PM. This causes a ghost to open the study and allow us to get the silver key and a videotape. The video shows where Sarah hid the doll. We unlock the door with the silver key and go to the second floor. We grab a gold key off of the ground and then bounce over to the other side via the trampoline. We open the chest with the gold key and find the doll. We follow Max's ghost to Sarah's room and rewrite the past by giving Sarah her doll back in time before her death.
I thought I let you down when you needed me most.
No, don't think that. You could never let me down. You're my hero.
Hero?
You're trying to save all those kids. I know you can do it. I love you.
I love you too. Goodbye, Sarah. It's time for me to face the future. Rest well.
We walk into the office on the right and see a portrait of Dr. Morgan's father, which triggers a flashback. It seems he was an overbearing dad who demanded that Morgan excel in his medical studies. Behind the portrait is a hidden pipe valve which allows us to power the machine on the left. This is probably a good time to discuss the gameplay and puzzles in Sanitarium. If you're not familiar with point and click adventure games from the 90s, well, the majority were poorly made. Monkey Island and Myst were the gold standard, whereas games like Harvester, Darkseid and the kind of games I play on this channel really fell into two categories. Literally impossible to beat without a guide. Before we leave the library, there's something else we need to get. Do you see it? Well, we need a bobby pin that's laying on the ground. Do you see it yet? No? It's this tiny black speck laying on the ground. Who the fuck would ever see that? Imagine the developers spending hundreds of hours working on it. Then imagine the player never being able to see all that work because they didn't notice a tiny fucking speck on the ground. What a joke. Who came up with this? And near impossible to beat without a guide. We kill the weird bug creatures and escape from a burst eyeball. Our clothes are now covered in burning slime and we need to get it off quickly. Inside of a bar we drink a beer and for some reason it summons our evil doppelganger. I guess it's supposed to be commentary on the evils of alcohol, but I don't know. We kill him and he drops the key to the cash register. We find the meat worker inside the lodge cooking up dismembered bodies. Lovely. We grab a leg and the torso. We find the cloakroom and we pay the attendant to wash our clothes, getting the slime off. This was so annoying to do back in the day. You have no idea what order you have to do things in and you used to die so quickly. I had to keep replaying this over and over and over and over again. You gotta love those old point and click adventure games. In the future I'm going to make a video on a game that was actually impossible to beat full stop when it was released. I tend to make videos on these games because although the stories, artwork and creative design are really interesting, they're either impossible to beat yourself or just plain torturous. Sanitarium just isn't like that. It's completely fair from start to finish. You don't need to be a 12th level intellect to comprehend what the developers intend for you to do. And for that reason it stood the test of time absolutely amazingly. It's one of the blueprints for how a game like this should play. So we solved the mechanism which releases the gate in the main building. Jesus is a slaughterhouse. We look at each chalkboard and discover that Dr. Morgan has been testing on human subjects to discover the cure to an illness, and the answer lies in young test subjects, aka children. The capital letters on each chalkboard reveals the passcode "Youth hides the key to salvation," which lets us pass into the next world.
God! Huh?
There you are. Been wandering again. You know you can't come in here. We've been through this before. If you ever want to get better, you have to let me help you. I know all this must be confusing to you, even frightening. But this work is going to help so many people. Sick people. People with no hope.
No! No!
Calm down. You're going to hurt yourself. Those straps can hold a man twice your strength.
The only good bug is a dead one.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
We've now become the legendary cyclopean hero Grimwall. This is a world from the comic books that Max used to read as a child. In fact, remember the beginning of the game when the inmate talked about bugs trying to destroy the world? Well, it turns out that all the inmates were hinting towards future parts of the game. We grab the dead bug security harness which allows us to escape. While we're wearing this, all the bugs will think that we're one of them. The whole hive is a combination of bug flesh and machinery. It's both absolutely grotesque but undeniably pretty cool. You've heard of cyberpunk and steampunk, but have you ever heard of bug punk?
The insect is performing a grotesque experiment, putting bits of machinery into the child.
By the makers! Grimwall! You're Grimwall! But why have you returned to us? I thought Gromna had everything under control.
Grimwall? Is that my name? I don't remember much. I had to use this strange device that I found on the large one, just to pass their security forces.
It's an ID harness. Gromna built them for the insectoids since they lost their sight. With that on, you look like another bug to them. That's why they're not swarming all over you.
So it seems that Gravin is working with the bugs, maybe under duress. So we need to wait until he's done before we can talk to him. He gives us the voice code to enter his hut, where we take a hammer and a bunch of tools. We enter another building and discover a furnace operated by bugs that use dead cyclopean children as fuel. Why do all the weird point and click games have flesh covered hallways? We use the hammer on the pipe and then overheat the furnace by operating the pumps. This comically blows up one of the bugs. We take his pincer and then we operate the furnace controls and see this wonderfully creative and disgusting puzzle element. You have to match up the glowing symbols to the domino looking rectangles. Now we can speak to the cyberbug and find out what's going on.
Who designed these robotics?
Gromna, honorable assistant to Her Majesty.
Where is he?
He is within the Queen's chambers. Since it is the eve of retribution, there is much preparation required. His plan must be executed perfectly. As of tomorrow, we will return to our rightful position as the dominating race of the planet. Under the guise of peace, we shall collect the debt that has been unpaid for decades. Gromna has seen the error of his kind's ways and has come to aid us in our desire for revenge. With his gift of cybernetics, we shall once again rule the surface.
So the Cyclopses, what's the plural of Cyclops? Cyclopses? So the Cyclopses inhabit this world with the bugs. When the Makers, the ancient gods, created the world many years ago, there was a grand battle for supremacy between the two species. The Cyclopses won and the bugs were forced to live underground, until so many years passed that the entire species and battle fell into myth. Until recently when the bugs returned and sued for diplomatic peace with the Cyclops race. I've got to give it to them, it is a really interesting and unique premise. We walk over to Graben's hut for another exposition dump.
The War of the One was a pivotal point in the history of our people. For years, we had fought the insectoids, neither side gaining ground as the planet was ravaged by countless battles. The Makers, creators of all and of nothing, watched silently for many years before taking action. They spoke to the leaders of both sides through grand visions, declaring that there was to be one final battle for supremacy. The victor would rule the planet, and the defeated race would be forced underground, never to return to the surface again.
We won?
Yes, thanks to you. You destroyed nearly a third of the troops, all by yourself. Actually, no one really believed the story of the War of the One, or thought that there were any insectoids. Until now.
Gromna! That's the name the bugs were using at the furnace. They said he's giving the orders to burn the children's bodies.
That's absurd. He's my mentor, a brilliant entomologist. He'd never. We were sent here to examine this hive a few months ago. We were captured, but Gromna convinced the Queen to put aside her plans of conquest and negotiate a peace treaty. Since then, it's been peaceful for both sides. In fact, tomorrow is the day that both leaders will meet to sign the treaty.
Gromna was the leader of an expedition force sent by the Cyclops leaders to investigate the bugs, except it appears that Gromna has betrayed the species. Why do all the names start with G? Grimwall, Graben and Gromna? We walk back over to the cyberbug and ask him to upgrade our security harness, and then we scan the bug pincer we picked up to verify our age. The upgrade results in another flashback where we see that Max and his wife were out on an expedition. They were both trying to create a cure for an illness called DNA-V, and they believed that the ancient Aztecs had a medicinal cure. However, they discovered that Dr. Morgan was on the verge of finding a cure himself, so Max and his wife returned home to work with him. There's yet another flashback, and this one shows that Max was working under Dr. Morgan, and that Dr. Morgan was testing his DNA-V treatment by, quote, causing a monkey to feel excruciating pain. Very unethical medical practices. We enter another room and discover a half-Cyclops, half-bug mutation caring for vats of cloned Cyclopean children. Gritza was a member of Gromnar's expedition. It turns out that Gromnar is seeking immortality by merging Cyclops DNA with bug DNA. I find body horror like this absolutely disgusting, but I can't look away. Gritza is sentient enough to be aware of his mutations and wants to die, but is forced to continue minding the children due to the hive's influence.
Experiments left me for I am a freak now. Tend the young ones. They are fragile children. So young.
It's incredibly similar to the many from System Shock 2.
I worry so about my little ones. Little ones need lots of meat to grow big and strong.
In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if they got the idea from Sanitarium, although that's just speculation. We use the pincer to grab a clone and bring it back to Graben as proof that Gromna has betrayed him. He agrees to help us by letting us into Gromna's pod, where we discover his plan to help the bugs destroy the Cyclops by grafting them with cybernetics. The peace treaty meeting that's going to happen tomorrow is a ruse by the bugs to destroy them. We grab a key from under the pillow and use it on a safe to get a sound generator. We use the sound generator to open up a disgusting tube which sucks us up to a higher level. Inside we find Grundle, another mutated Cyclops from the expedition, as well as cages full of Gromnar's cloned Cyclopean children. The children recite a melody and we replay the melody on the door controls to open up the next level. On top we find the cloned children pinned to the gigantic queen bug. They're being used as fuel in the furnace and as food for the queen. Gorilla, the last member of the expedition, is here. It turns out that all of this machinery is a contraption left over by the Makers when they first created the world, and which Gromnar has altered to suit his own ends. We use the tools to take the machinery piece and then travel back to Graben. We throw the machine piece to Graben, which opens up a miniature wormhole. Gromnar is going to use it to swarm the Cyclopean capital with the bug army.
What about the second missing piece?
That could be it. Wherever it is, you must hurry and find it before the peace treaty tomorrow. Something tells me that it's nothing more than a clever disguise for a more sinister plot.
We travel back up to the top of the tower where we discover Gromnar giving a speech to the bug army in front of the Queen.
For too long, you have known suffering. You have dwelt beneath the surface and watched your aggressors live in lands where you once lived. Will you remain underground forever? Can you endure this terrible injustice for one more day?
By the way, you don't mind if I go off script a little bit, because, you know, it's sort of boring. It's a little boring. If they get in, they will repeal your tax cuts,
which will allow you to overrun the capital city of Grotesque and assume your rightful place as rulers of this planet. Your planet!
It's the most shocking and disgusting scene in the game, I think. Although I do have to admit it is made somewhat comical by the little bugs operating the cameras. We grab the machine piece and then travel back to Grabbin so we can warn the Cyclops species. Another flashback shows us that Max discovered the cure to DNAV.
My God, that's it! All along, the answer has been right here! Right in front of my eyes the whole time!
Now what? The whole damn hive will be bearing down on us any second now.
Hold on. I figured it out. The second piece serves as a compass for the wormhole. With this, I can open a doorway anywhere. I'm setting the coordinates for the chambers of the Peace Council. When we tell them about Gromna, they'll launch a preemptive nuclear strike against the hive.
I'm gonna bomb the shit out of them. It's true. I don't care.
Now where am I? Cyclops? Bugs? Mother? All of these monsters must mean something, but what?
We wake up in the morgue and the temperature is dropping rapidly. We have to get out before we freeze to death. A corpse on the table tells us that it will get increasingly dangerous the closer we get to our goal. The puzzle to open the morgue door is surprisingly annoying because it's actually a lot easier than it looks, which threw me off. You just have to line up the cog to the wheel, turn the handle and keep repeating. Why would a morgue ever need to be locked from the inside? We walk into the office and see another flashback regarding DNAV. It's an illness that's killing newborn children across the world, and it's Max's motivations for becoming a doctor, along with the untimely death of his sister.
What the hell are you doing?
Excuse me?
Cutting my research department in half? Pulling most of my funding, despite the fact that my department, my research is coming remarkably close to a cure?
May I remind you that the Mercy Foundation was created around the success of my hope drug, not vague promises of a cure?
You know, I think I figured you out. You're not interested in a cure. You just want hope to bring you more prestige, more money. You smart bastard. Give me back my department, otherwise I'll leave. I'll take my research with me and find a company that's more concerned with finding a cure than filling its pockets.
I'll look over the numbers again. We'll work something out.
There's a lot to do here and much of it isn't story related, so I'll try to be quick. We pick up a box of matches and a bus from the desk along with an urn on some shelves. We throw the bus at the wall to break through. We grab a U-shaped joint pipe and turn the steam valve. We go across to the crematorium room with the furnace and pick up a wrench. We open the furnace door, pick up the body with the number 7 tag on it and place it into the fire. We open it back up, take a glass eye and scoop up the ashes with the urn. We use the wrench on the pipes outside and replace it with a U-shaped joint. This in turn heats up the morgue and allows us to re-enter, where we find an old man who's been trapped inside one of the containers. He tells us that Dr. Morgan put him in the morgue because he was too old for his experiments. He also tells us that there's scratchings on the inside of another container. We open it up, slide inside and use the matches and a glass eye to read what's there. It says, "There once was a man who planted a tree and spoke to it daily in reverent rhymes. Before the man died, he shared it with me, the rhyme I've spoken to the tree many times. Approach it with caution and whisper these words. Speak to me, tree, lest your eyes nest with birds." Does that rhyme? We walk outside and see an old gravestone, but the name on the gravestone is withered, so we rub the ashes on it to make it readable. The gravestone reads Paul Stark. We walk over to the forest until we find a tree with a face. Remember from earlier? I told you that would come up on the test later. We command the tree to speak to us and invoke the name of its creator, Paul Stark, to grant us passage. We grab the crystal heart behind him and use it on a beam of light to open the Aztec temple. Inside we find Dr. Morgan.
Well, Max, I don't know how you found me, but you're too late. I'm leaving now. Leaving you here with the rest of the dead people.
Damn you, Morgan!
The secret to activating the device appears to be the use of 5 distinct symbols.
We solve the puzzle by matching the symbols to those we found on the wall of the temple, and we're off.
Yes!
What the?
Old woman, what is your station?
By the Great Spirits, you have arrived, Olmec, the Holy Warrior. Praise the gods.
Still your tongue, old crone. I asked your station. What is it?
My name is Titio. I am the village oracle.
What of this village? Why was I summoned?
It is Quetzalcoatl, Holy One. He has returned.
What nonsense is this? He sits on his majestic throne in the heavens, not in this pathetic dung heap of a village.
He stands atop the angry mountain, your grandness. He is using his magic to bring forth the blood of the land to kill us all.
Your tale told of the shaven-head Otanmi warriors. Where are they?
Quetzalcoatl slaughtered them as if they were children. And now their shades roam the land, trapped here by his wicked magic.
As you've just witnessed, we're now the ancient holy warrior Olmec, summoned by the village to do battle against Quetzalcoatl. I absolutely love this part of the game. Olmec is hilarious. He has a blunt reaction to everything and often insults people weeping over their lost village. Not to mention how great his voice is. Just listen to how he says the phrase, big totem pole.
Big totem pole.
Let's confront Quetzalcoatl and see what his problem is.
Olmec, I should have known you'd come. You follow your god's commands like the dog that you are. Go back down to your followers and wait for your death as they do. You are powerless against me here. You dare speak to me in such a tone? I have enough power to handle the likes of you. Why do you seek to destroy those that worship you? You were their greatest king. Ah, they are loyal to none but themselves. Soon after my death, they stopped offering sacrifice, and now they will pay with their lives. And then what? When there is nothing left to conquer, what will you do? I grow with the power of the souls I consume. When this world has been stripped of all its souls, I will be the most powerful god of all. I will conquer the heavens.
Alright, that's not going to work. We throw the statue into the lava which creates a bridge to the water temple. Don't worry, it's not that kind of water temple. We talk to all of the slain warrior spirits. They tell us their name, age and how they died. One of them asks us to prove our righteousness by returning a necklace to his wife, something that he wasn't able to do in life. We walk over to the Jaguar temple and it gives us a quest.
Most sacred warrior, you must find blood that springs from a holy heart, and a heart which does not bleed. Place these 2 offerings in the bowls before you, and then you may enter the Temple of the Jaguar.
16 and 32 are less than 64. So with 64 bits, 3D graphics, real-world animation, and lightning speed that you can only get with Jaguar, which is more advanced?
Can you repeat the question?
Jaguar! Jaguar! Jaguar!
We go to the village and pick up a copper bowl for later. Again, the dialogue and voice is just absolutely amazing.
Old woman, what say you?
I see the Oracle was successful in summoning you. Although at this point, I don't see much use in it. The damage has been done. You have no purpose here.
What do you mean by that, bitter crone? I am Olmec. I fight for the gods themselves.
We speak to the wife of the slain warrior. Turns out that he was a fisherman in life. In the next room there's the chieftain's wife. He explains in further detail what happened.
Woman, what say you?
Olmec, you have come to us. Thank the gods, for our prayers have been answered.
Why was your husband spared Quetzalcoatl's wrath?
He was praying inside the temple of the Jaguar when the evil one came. By the time the echoes of death reached him, the battle was over. He emerged to find nearly the entire village destroyed. He was bound by tradition to become chieftain. Thus he cannot attack Quetzalcoatl, and now he broods in a dark mood. He sees himself a coward for not being able to die in battle with the others. At first, when we saw our revered king back from the land of the dead, we were overjoyed. We thought he had come back to lead us to great victories. Instead, he came to destroy us. Although our warriors fought fiercely, Quetzalcoatl scattered them like broken twigs. After they had been killed, he unleashed his dark magic on us.
The chieftain himself dares speak to us in a contemptuous tone.
What are you? And why do you enter this village?
I am Olmec, holy warrior. You dare address me in that tone?
I do. You may frighten the others, but you'll get no such satisfaction from me. Where were you when we needed you most? Your arrival now means nothing to me. You're too late.
He's disillusioned from the apparent death of his daughter, so we tell him to gift the fisherman's wife the necklace, and then we make our way back to the now unguarded big totem pole.
Big totem pole.
We push it over, walk across, and push aside the boulders. Inside we find the chieftain's daughter and return her safely.
Quetzalcoatl, my daughter, you have returned from death.
Fool! She was trapped within the temple. Had you not been so stubborn and full of self-pity, you would have realized that.
We go back to the wind temple and smash the container by ringing the gongs from the largest to the smallest. We take the wind totem and go back to the water temple. To open it we need to match the order of the fisherman's creed that we got from the fisherman's shade. Inside we take the water totem and a ruby fish. We go to the witch behind the Jaguar temple and find out what he's up to. He's going to weaken Quetzalcoatl enough for us to defeat him, but first he needs the pod of might from the sacred tree that's now entrenched in lava. We speak to the chieftain and recite all the fallen warriors from the youngest to the oldest. This, along with saving his daughter, proves that we're ready for a sacred spell that protects us from the elements. We can now walk across the lava and grab the pod of might. We deliver the pod of might to the witch who readies the spell and confronts Quetzalcoatl. I have to say that seemed pretty useless to anybody else. Was this really necessary?
Although honorable in your sacrifice, the village is still in danger, Old One. Quetzalcoatl has powerful magic at his disposal.
Can't Olmec give this guy a break? He's on his deathbed.
Mask? What mask do you speak of?
Death mask below the maze.
We collect his blood in the copper bowl and then return to his heart where we take a crystal heart. We offer the blood and the crystal heart to the Jaguar temple. Inside we solve a puzzle corresponding to the order of the symbols on the steps. We take the Jaguar totem which causes the statue of Quetzalcoatl to break. We place the totems on the stone slab and then flash back to Max discovering the cure to DNAV just before the events of the game.
Come on. Hold together, you son of a bitch.
Molecular cohesion affirmative.
Yes!
Test cycle downloaded to DVD. Encryptor sequence completed. System shutdown activated.
We're now incredibly close to defeating Quetzalcoatl, and I'm really going to miss saying the name Quetzalcoatl. There's just this maze to get through first. I won't lay out a step-by-step guide, but essentially you avoid the lightning, operate controls to unblock certain paths, and then make your way around via trial and error. At the end, we get the death mask of Quetzalcoatl.
Oh, my poor baby. You had an awful fall. I'm so glad you've come home.
Home?
Well, of course, silly. That's right, dear. You hit your head on the chimney. Now don't give it another thought. I'll take care of you.
Chimney? No, I hit it... No, I hit it on... in... my car?
No, of course not, dear. You just bumped...
Yes, my car. I was driving and... the brakes...
But Max, we've been waiting for you for so long. Don't leave now.
We? Who?
Why, me and little Sarah, of course. Well, who else would it be, silly?
But that's impossible. Sarah is dead.
Sarah! Max is home.
Max, you're home, you're home. I missed you.
You're alive! My God, Sarah! You're... No! You're dead!
Your tenacity is quite remarkable, you know. Your doctor tells me that you should have died in the car wreck. I wish things could have worked out differently, Max, but they didn't. You leave me little choice, old friend. Did you honestly expect me to sit by while you went public with your cure? No. I've worked much, much too hard to allow that. I guess this is goodbye, Max. I'm truly sorry it had to end like this. Farewell.
Quetzalcoatl murdering an entire village. Morgan trying to kill me. Now I see the connections. None of this is real.
That was a disturbing cutscene. I wish they had more like that in the game. So it looks like Dr. Morgan tampered with Max's car to prevent him from unveiling his cure for DNAV, and he's now attempting to finish us off while we're in a coma. We can now transform into any character at will, which we'll need to do in order to escape this labyrinth. We turn into Olmec to cross the thorns and then complete the pumpkin memory game, causing the children to disappear. We take the skull and then return it to the headless ghost. A stone crypt rises from the ground and we use Grimwall's strength to open it and take the head of the angelic statue. We walk across the thorns and play the strength test game. This freaky looking clown is our next puzzle. We hit the coloured teeth as they appear on the clown's hair. This causes his nose to pop out so we can climb through, taking the angelic statue's wing. This entire stage is an amalgamation of every world we've explored thus far. We crawl over the spider's web and stomp the plates in the correct order. We pull the corpses down from the pikes to shatter the crystal and take the wing. Now we just need the torso. We enter the hive, turn the control levers and activate the sound disruptor to reveal the grate. We open the grate and grab a pincer from inside the honeycomb. We crawl through the grate, up the thorns and then cut the wire with the pincer. This drops the torso of the angelic statue and allows us to combine all the pieces and reveal a portal.
The statue is reassembled, and a portal has opened. The real world must be close, I can feel it. I'd better move quickly.
You've come far, Max, but I'm afraid it ends here, old friend. As for these, you won't need them any longer. You failed the children of the world, as you failed your sister when she needed you most. You don't have the courage to save them, nor the strength to do what's necessary. You failed everyone. As I've told you countless times before, Max, you've always been your own worst enemy.
Have to get through those columns. The real world lies beyond.
The clone mimics your movements. You need to navigate Max so you and your double can smash the glowing orbs while avoiding the goo. As we progress, the world starts to shift. We beat the puzzle, everything has been building to this moment, it's time to regain control.
Enough games, Max. This ends here, now. Do you know that the poison will soon condemn you to darkness forever? Lost to your doomed world. Lost to your wife. Lost to your unborn child.
I'm back. It's over.
And that's it, we've done it. As you can see from the portrait, Max is reunited with his wife and they have a child together. The epilogue that plays over the credits informs us about Max and Dr. Morgan. Thankfully, Morgan is under trial and is looking at life in prison.
Head of the Mercy Drug Corporation, Dr. Jacob Morgan, has resigned. This surprising development comes just a few short months after the corporation made its cure for the DNAV virus available to the public.
The trial of Dr. Jacob Morgan, former head of the Mercy Drug Corporation, begins this morning. Federal authorities claim Dr. Morgan hindered the drug's development in an attempt to increase company profits. He may even have gone so far as to sabotage a researcher's car, an act which nearly prevented a true cure from ever being found. Prosecutors are confident that Morgan will be found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
Now, what are my thoughts? The end confrontation is pretty subpar. Every time I see a chessboard in a point-and-click game, I think of a lazy way to add a quick puzzle. When I see that it's Sanitarium's climactic confrontation, I'm just disappointed. I mean, technically it's not chess, but the last stage just doesn't reach the level of quality that the game had set for itself previously. It should have had one last world, of equal length to all the others, that tied everything neatly together. We don't even get to see Max confront Dr. Morgan. Morgan's comeuppance happens off-screen. And really that brings me to my wider criticism of the game. Now don't get me wrong, Sanitarium remains one of my favourite games of all time. The artwork, the story and the characters all have that unique charm and inventiveness of great early PC titles, but the story just misses the mark ever so slightly for me. What are the most interesting sections of the game? The worlds, the inner turmoil of Max, not the asylum and not the convoluted story about medical malpractice. The developers of DreamForge stated that they all had unique ideas for a point-and-click adventure game and ultimately they decided, hey, why don't we just make all of them? Which is a great idea. I love anthology books and movies and games, but they needed a thread to connect them all, which would have been achieved just fine by fleshing out Max's personal trauma. Sanitarium reaches its emotional peak when Max is reliving his childhood and coming to terms with his sister's death. There's many different ways you can interpret segments of the game. The innocent children in the village could represent the newborns who died of DNAV. The circus was the place where Max was never able to take his sister, and so everything there held special significance. And the hive is a representation of Dr. Morgan as Gromnar, betraying those that worked under him. But, in my opinion, the narrative structure would have been a lot tighter if Dr. Morgan didn't exist. There didn't need to be an overarching antagonist. It could have been a full exploration of one man's trauma and the human condition as a whole. We still got that of course, but it could have been expanded upon. The ending for a psychological adventure game with incredibly dark elements is just too happy and whimsical. It should have been bittersweet. How about something like this? We actually see Dr. Morgan get taken by the police. We see the greed and prestige that he's desperately tried to cling onto fall from around him. Max goes on to leave a doll on Sarah's grave, having confronted his sense of guilt and despair but still missing his sister. He turns to see his wife holding their child, and they enter a car together to the sound of the radio announcing his discovery of a cure for DNAV. But that's just my opinion, and I'd be really interested to hear yours. What did you think of the game? What metaphors and symbolism did you see? I'll be looking out for your comments. Thank you for being such great fans and for sticking with me all the way. There'll be many more games to come.
Big totem pole.